And greetings, saints of the Most High. Welcome to another installment of the Messianic Torah Observer. Rod Thomas coming to you on a beautiful spring midweek day here in the DFW. And so I wanted to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to fellowship with me. And as always, it is my hope, trust, and prayer that this installment of TMTO finds you, your families, and your fellowships well and blessed. So as I am publishing this discussion, this teaching, if you will, it is the 26th day of the 12th month of Yah's sacred calendar year, which translates to March 27, 2025. So in terms of where we are in relation to Abba Yah's reckoning of time, we are literally a day, maybe two, from biblical Rosh HaShannah, the Messianic, the Nazarene New Year, or Aviv 1, which is a very important time on the Creator's calendar. For biblical Rosh HaShannah, as most of you are aware, establishes and marks the dates for the mandated feast of Yah, the feast of the Lord, during this upcoming biblical calendar year. If we get the date for biblical Rosh HaShannah wrong, we will inevitably get the dates for Yah's upcoming feast wrong, and that is not a good thing we should want to happen. According to Jewish tradition, this is a special Shabbat that's coming up here. It is special for two reasons. First, it's special because of where it falls out on Yah's sacred calendar. And second, it's special because of what it represents and means to Yah's chosen ones. To our rabbinic Jewish cousins, this Sabbath is referred to as Shabbat HaChodesh, or the Sabbath before Aviv 1, or before biblical Rosh HaShannah. Consequently, you'll never hear our Jewish cousins refer to Aviv 1 as Rosh HaShannah because the rabbis changed the head of the year to the first day of the seventh month, aka Yom Teruah, or the Feast of Trumpets, which of course is contrary to the instructions given to us by Abba Yah. So calendar-wise, this is the Shabbat, the Sabbath that immediately precedes or that occurs before biblical Rosh HaShannah or Aviv 1. The so-called Jewish sages spotlighted this particular Sabbath in order to prepare the people's hearts and minds to receive Nisan 1, or for us, Aviv 1, and the upcoming spring feast of Pesach, Passover, and the Feast of Unleavened Bread. So in order to accomplish this, let's say, preparatory act, Exodus, or Shemot, chapter 12, verses 1 through 10, is added to the Shabbat Torah reading, or parasha regimen, for this particular Sabbath. Additionally, a haftarah reading of Ezekiel chapter 45, verses 16 through Ezekiel chapter 46, verse 18, is added to this Sabbath's parasha regimen as well. Although not a holy day, apart from it being a weekly Sabbath day, it is a very important date on the biblical calendar, especially for those of us who keep Yah's set-apart Moedim, or the Feast of the Lord, the Feast of Yah. It is an important Sabbath because it alerts us as to the imminent arrival of the biblical Rosh HaShannah, aka Aviv 1. As of this posting, qualified searchers in the land of Yisrael have identified sufficient Aviv barley that could be or could have been used for our wave sheaf offerings on Yom HaBikurim, that is the day of first fruits, or the wave sheaf offering that occurs amid the Feast of Unleavened Bread, if, that is, we had an operating tabernacle or temple in Jerusalem. This being the case, All that remains to establish biblical Rosh HaShannah, or Aviv 1, is for our intrepid searchers in the land of Israel to sight the renewed moon over the land of Israel. Abba willing, this is expected to take place on this coming Sunday, March 30, 2025. Assuming the searchers are successful in sighting the renewed moon that evening, our Yah's Rosh Hashanah will begin at sundown on that Sunday, March 30, 2025, and we will celebrate the day on Monday, March 31st, 2025. If atmospheric conditions prevent our searchers from sighting the renewed moon on Sunday evening, March 30, 2025, then by default, Rosh Hashanah, or Aviv 1, will begin at sundown on Monday, March 31, 2025, and we'll celebrate the day instead on Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. Now, it should be known that neither Shabbat HaChodesh or Aviv 1 or biblical Rosh Hashanah are considered Moedim of Yehovah, or set-apart days, or high holy days. They are not set-apart days. That is, Moedim, or mandated feast, so to speak. Shabbat HaKodesh, because it is a weekly Sabbath, is to be treated as any weekly Sabbath. It is a no-work day, of course, and a day of rest. Biblical Rosh Hashanah is not a Moedim, or set-apart day of Yehovah, although we are commanded by Yehovah to do, that is, observe, shamar. Shamar meaning to keep, to watch over, to guard. We are to observe the month of Aviv. And you shall keep the Passover of Yehovah your God. For in the month of Aviv, Yehovah your God brought you out from Egypt by night. And that is Deuteronomy chapter 16, verse 1. Beloved, this is not a request that we observe, that we shamar, that we watch, guard, keep the month of Aviv. Nor is it a suggestion. You see, so passionate is Father that his people get his appointed times marked and firmly established for the coming year. He commanded us to shamar the month of the Aviv, to guard, to keep, to watch over the month of the Aviv. Our English rendering of the Hebrew term shamar is misleading, as you can tell. It falsely conveys the sense that Yehovah simply wants his chosen ones to consider the month of the Aviv, to remember it, to give it some consideration. But Yehovah requires his chosen ones to ensure that Rosh Hashanah, biblical Rosh Hashanah, is firmly established, and that all the set-apart days contained within the month of the Aviv are properly established and kept by them. So despite biblical Rosh Hashanah, or Aviv 1, not being a mandated feast of Yehovah, it is a day of commanded observance, of guarding, of remembrance, of keeping. Like any Rosh Chodesh or renewed moon day, it should be met with blast from the shofar, or shouts of praise unto Yehovah, if a shofar is not available. It should be met with sincere reverence towards our Elohim, our Elohim, for he is good and he is merciful, and we are undeserved of his goodness. It should be met with seeking of Yah's will for our lives in the coming days and in the coming new year. It should be met with deep introspection, that is, looking back over the previous year, the year that is passing into memory, and then conduct an honest assessment of how we did in terms of doing what we've been assigned by our Master to do, considering the missed opportunities to serve, the times we rebelled against Yah's will, the things we did we know that we shouldn't have done, and seeking his forgiveness. It should be met with a commitment to walking in his purpose better than last year. It should also be met with the desire to gain an understanding of the sacred times of Yah that will come upon us in the coming days. Now, I'm led to not taking up too much of your time on this post, but I would like to read the assigned Torah reading for this Sabbath in honor of Shabbat HaChodesh, and to briefly discuss what the month of the Aviv 2025 looks like in terms of dates. And the Shabbat HaChodesh reading, which is contained in Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 10. And the English, or I should say the Lexham English Bible, reads as follows. We're beginning at verse 1 of Exodus chapter 12. And Jehovah said to Moses and to Aaron in the land of Egypt, that is, remember that we are at this point in bitter bondage under our Egyptian taskmasters and the gods of Egypt. So Jehovah on this day, and this is after many of the plagues have already happened, and we're just awaiting the one last plague, the death of the firstborn of the Egyptians. Jehovah says to Moses and Aaron on this day, verse 2, this month, that is the month of the Aviv, this month will be the beginning of months. It will be for you the first of the months of the year. That is, this will be your Rosh HaShannah. We are being given a new calendar where Jehovah determines the times and dates we are to meet with him. Not the world, not the Egyptian gods or the Egyptian taskmasters. He is now giving us a new reckoning of time. Verse 3. Jehovah continues in his speaking to Moses and Aaron. He says to them, speak to all the community of Yisrael, saying, on the 10th of this month, that being Aviv 10, they will each take for themselves a lamb for the family, a lamb for the household. And if the household is too small for a lamb, he and the neighbor nearest to his house will take one according to the number of persons. You will count out portions of the lamb according to how much each one can eat. Verse 5, the lamb for you must be a male without defect in its first year. You will take it from the sheep or from the goats. Verse 6, you will keep it until the 14th day of this month, that is, until Pesach or Passover day. And all the assembly of the community of Yisrael will slaughter it at twilight. Verse 7, and they will take some of the blood and put it on the two doorposts and on the lintel of the houses in which they eat it. Verse 8, and they will eat the meat on this night. They will eat it fire roasted and with unleavened bread on bitter herbs. You must not eat any of it raw or boiled in the water, but rather roasted with fire, its head with its legs and with its inner parts. And lastly, verse 10, and you must not leave any of it until morning. Anything left from it until morning you must burn in the fire. Again, that was the Lexham English Bible rendering of Exodus chapter 12, verses 1 through 10. We who are chosen of Mashiach, chosen of Yeshua Messiah, in covenant relation with the creator of the universe, recognize in this critical passage of Torah the shadow picture that is contained therein. The whole month of the Aviv is a loving portrait of the earthly ministry of Yeshua Messiah. Now, our Jewish cousins are not privy to this wonderful, wondrous understanding because, as the apostle wrote, "For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles has come in." That is the KJV rendering of Romans chapter 11, verse 25. And so our Jewish cousins keep Passover, Yah bless them, out of a sense of religious duty. But they remain blind as to the real reason or the real meaning behind and importance of Passover, not just to them, but to all humanity. And in this reality, the apostle wrote, "Purge out therefore the old leaven, that ye may be a new lump, as ye are unleavened. For even Christ, Messiah, Mashiach, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth." That is the KJV rendering of 1 Corinthians chapter 5, verses 7 and 8. And so Shabbat HaChodesh reminds us we must regard, we must shamar the month of the Aviv, despite the many cares of this life that may hinder our doing so. We do so first and foremost by marking the day of Rosh HaShannah, which, depending on our searcher's success, is sighting the renewed moon over Yisrael, will begin at sundown on Sunday, March 30, 2025, with the day, of course, being Monday, March 31st. Which brings us to two scenarios in terms of dates and time frames. Scenario 1, if searchers sight the renewed moon on Sunday evening, March 30th, we will celebrate biblical Rosh HaShannah as commanded by Torah in spirit and in truth. We cannot reasonably take in a Pesach lamb into our home in preparation of slaughtering it on Pesach on the 10th day of Aviv because, well, we do not have an operating temple or tabernacle. But again, we honor this period of selecting the Lamb of Yah on the 10th day of the month of Aviv, which will be Wednesday, April the 9th, by remembering what Yeshua, our Master, has done for us and what he means to our covenant relationship with the Creator of the universe, Yehovah. Also, during this time, we begin removing the leaven from our homes in obedience to Torah, so that by the first day of the Feast of Unleavened Bread, our dwellings are completely devoid of unleavened bread. Then, on the evening of Sunday, April 13th, we're still under scenario 1, we honor Pesach or Passover. Now, I will not go into how we keep Passover in this discussion since I've done several teachings on this subject throughout the years, and I would invite you to read or listen to those teachings as you're so led. And then at sundown on Sunday, April 13, we begin the 7-day Feast of Unleavened Bread, with the first day being Monday, March 14th, and the last day, Sunday, April 20th, being set-apart days where we are instructed by Yah to take part in holy convocations and not work. And remember that we find the timing of these days in Leviticus chapter 23, our go-to passage for all things having to do with the annual Feast of Yehovah. Now, that was scenario 1. Now, looking at scenario 2, if for whatever reason our searchers are unsuccessful in their efforts to sight the renewed moon on Sunday evening, March 30, then by default, biblical Rosh HaShannah for us will begin at sundown on Monday, March 31st. And from there, Our scenario 2, Pesach or Passover, will be on the evening of Monday, the 14th of April, with the first day of unleavened bread beginning that same evening at sunset, and the 7-day feast being from Tuesday, April 15th, ending on Monday, April 21st. Now, I will have these two scenarios in this teaching's transcript for your convenience. If you want to jot them down, you can either jot them down, rewind back and jot down these dates, or you can visit our website, themessianic.org. My apologies, I'm still trying to get over this bug that I've had for the last 3 weeks. When you get to my age, it's hard to sometimes shake these bugs, these colds, these flus, whatever they may be. But hey, Yah is good. And I'm feeling better each day. And I'm so appreciative to have been given the strength by Yah to come before you during this very critical time of Yah's biblical calendar year. So check those out at themessianictorahobserver.org for those two scenarios. I'll have them here in the transcript for you, as well as I'll be posting the scenario dates on the landing page of the site for you to also reference. And of course, I'll keep you posted with the findings of the searchers as these days approach. So, concluding these thoughts on Shabbat HaChodesh, it seems that each preceding Shabbat HaChodesh has held great significance considering the evil and pressing state of our world affairs. This year, more than at any previous time, the world and its institutions and systems and people are being shaken at levels previously unimagined. Everything's being shaken. It almost seems that the enemy and the kingdom of darkness have been loosed upon the world to do as much damage and harm as possible at greater intensity than at ever before. And those who do not have a solid rock, which we do, a solid rock upon which to stand, find themselves sinking in the muck, mire, and sand of this corrupt world. Thank Yah that we have Yeshua, who is our solid rock upon which we stand. All other ground is sinking sand. Hallelujah. But we who are of Yeshua Messiah and who are in a covenant relationship with the God of Abraham, Yitzchak, and Jacob, though we are forced to live in this world, we are not required to be of this world. In fact, the apostle instructed that we, Yah's elect, not conform to these ways of this world, but rather that we be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of our mind, that we may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Jehovah. And that is, of course, Romans chapter 12, verse 2, the KJV rendering. So the sacred times of Jehovah provide us the wherewithal and the opportunity to effect that transformation of mind, such that we come into sync with the creator of the universe, while the rest of the world flounders about and plunges themselves into an abyss of condemnation. We have been called out from the billions of people in this world. Think about that. We have been called out from the billions of people in this world to live in Jehovah's reality, thereby offering a lifeline to those who seek redemption and salvation and restoration. And it seems good to me that there is no time better than now to lose ourselves in Jehovah's reality, such that we fulfill the duty of man, which is to fear Jehovah and to keep his commandments. Ecclesiastes chapter 12, verse 13. Clearly, the world has nothing to offer us but a short-lived satisfying of this flesh in exchange for eternal separation for Jehovah. Not a good use of our time, resources, and heart. And so, as the apostle admonished his Corinthian readers, may we purge out the old leaven, that we may be a new lump, as we are unleavened. We are supposed to be without sin. We're supposed to not be conformed to the ways of this world. For even Messiah, our Passover, is sacrificed for us. Therefore, let us keep the feast, not with old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So happy Shabbat HaChodesh and happy Rosh HaShannah. Until next time, beloved, take care. Shalom, shalom.